On the go, the latest stories from Jamaica and around the world are literally a finger tap away. Keep up to date with Teen Revolution 24 hours a day online via nationwideradiojm.com. Listen live, read the latest stories, hear every soundbite. Be a part of the vibrant online debate via Facebook and Twitter. Now you can get all your favorite premium nationwide content at your convenience. Visit the Android Play Store and download it for free today. nationwideradiojm.com. All day, every day. Team Revolution.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Interex Distributors presents the ultimate tile clearance sale. Transform your space for less. Dunrobin Plaza, 30 Dunrobin Avenue. The temperature by Interex Distributors is
32 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News this hour, JCF signals intention to ban firearms at entertainment venues following shooting at Carnival event on Sunday.
And one of the men injured in the incident takes party promoters to task over failure to provide safety and security.
The police urge reports of domestic violence incidents amid uptick in cases.
Manchester is seeing an uptick in domestic violence-related incidents. St. Catherine North, Carnival, St. James, and St. Mary to a lesser extent.
Murder and sexual offences dominate the Supreme Court docket for the new Easter term.
In news from the rest of the world, Gaston Brown returned unopposed as leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party.
Trump warns Iran's ships approaching U.S. blockade will be eliminated.
In sports, Barbados Pride still on top despite steady fight by Jamaica Scorpions in regional four-day cricket in Spanish Town.
In our cover story at 5:35, head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, DSP Jacqueline Dillon, says several cases of domestic violence go unreported until they result in murder.
What we are mostly concerned about is the number of murders out of these domestic violence reported incidents.
We'll hear from one of the founding members of WMW Jamaica, Judith Wedderburn, psychiatrist at the Bellevue Hospital, Dr. Brian Kazara, and Principal Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Sharon Robinson.
In the nation's business at 6:25, we'll have a panel discussion held by the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. They're looking at the sweetened beverage tax and its implications for manufacturers, retailers, and consumers. You'll hear from the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, Dr. Suzanne Suarez Winter. And at 7, it's the comments section with Shalois Michael and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they're asking, what's your reaction to the shooting incident at the Big Wall Carnival party on Sunday night? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, April 13, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The Jamaica Constabulary Force says a restriction on firearms at entertainment venues is soon to be implemented as part of efforts to enhance public safety. The move follows a shooting incident at the Big Wall Revolution Soca party held at Ranny Williams Entertainment Center in St. Andrew on Sunday. Mahiri Stewart reports.
3 people, including vlogger Jay Frey, were injured in Sunday's shooting. In a statement Monday afternoon, the JCF confirmed some details already in the public domain. According to the police, a physical altercation developed between patrons at the event around 9:30 p.m. They report that the fracas escalated and gunshots were traded between two of the patrons. When the shooting subsided, two of the people involved in the dispute were found to be suffering from gunshot wounds. Another man was also injured. They were taken to hospital for treatment, where one was treated and discharged into police custody. This is believed to be Jay Frey, whose given name is J.D. Richards. The other two remain hospitalized. The JCF says another man has been taken into custody, but his identity is being withheld pending further investigation. 2 firearms were reportedly seized in the incident. The JCF says it's organizing a series of meetings with party and event promoters to reinforce security and safety requirements as part of the party permit process. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, one of the men injured in Sunday's incident, Jeremy Watson, is lambasting the event promoters for what he says was a failure to provide reasonable safety and security for patrons. He's also taking them to task over what he says was inadequately equipped medical services at the venue. In a statement to the media on Monday, Watson, who was visiting from the United States, says he was struck by a stray bullet from the altercation. He says the extent of his injuries are such that he is required to be transported home to undergo urgent surgical treatment. Watson did not say where he was hit, but says there is a potential for long-term disability due to nerve damage. He says what should have been a celebratory evening has instead been the cause of significant physical, emotional, and financial distress. He wants event organizers to be held accountable for enforcing stricter safety measures.
At least 6 police divisions are showing a slight uptick in murder since the start of the year. That's according to the latest crime statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Shalois Michael has been tracking the data.
20 murders were recorded over the last 2 weeks. It brings to 150 the number of homicides recorded up to April 11. That's 55 fewer than the 205 people killed when compared with the corresponding period in 2025. The figure represents an overall decline of nearly 27%. But of the country's 19 police divisions, 6 are showing a slight uptick. They are Hanover, St. Elizabeth, St. James, Manchester, Clarendon, and Kingston Eastern. A combined 21 more people have been killed across the 6 divisions when compared to the same period in 2025. The Trelawney Division stands steady, recording 3, the same number as last year's review period. The JCF says, like murder, other major crimes continue to trend downwards. Shootings are down nearly 38%. Rape is also down 14%. Robbery at 20%, while break-ins are down almost 19%. Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF says several cases of domestic violence go unreported until they result in murder. Head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, Deputy Superintendent Jacqueline Dillon, raised the concern on Monday.
For domestic violence itself, we did see for the first quarter of 2026 a reduction in the number of reported incidents to the police. This time, 2025, we had 2,256 reported incidents. To date, January to March of 2026, we have 2020. What we are mostly concerned about is the number of murders out of these domestic violence reported incidents. Many of them go unreported, and we only know of them after something happens.
The latest domestic violence incident occurred in Manchester just 2 weeks ago on April 3. A woman was stabbed multiple times to death by her partner, a soldier. DSP Dillon says Manchester is one of several divisions reporting an uptick in the incidents.
There are some divisions that were never on our radar, and what we have found in recent times is that there are a number of incidents that are coming from those areas. So like areas like Manchester, is seeing an uptick in domestic violence-related incidents. St. Catherine North normally has a high reported number of cases, and that has not changed. We have seen places like Hanover and St. James now showing increases in the number of reported incidents compared to what they reported before. And St. Mary, to a lesser extent.
DSP Jacqueline Dillon, head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit. She was a guest on the Jamaicans for Justice show Let's Talk Justice, aired on Nationwide 90 FM each Monday. Incidents of domestic violence may be reported through the domestic violence centers at 876-224-4274-5. You may also contact the police at 119 or visit the nearest police station.
Murder and sexual offenses continue to dominate the criminal justice system as the new Easter term of the Supreme Court gets underway with hundreds of serious matters on the docket. The term runs from April 13 to the end of July. Robian Williams reports.
Director of Public Prosecutions Claudette Thompson says there are 918 matters before the Supreme Court for the Easter term. Of that number, 189 are set for trial, while 671 are at other stages of the process. She notes that among the cases, murder accounts for the largest share, with 366 counts. There are also more than 50 firearm-related offenses, along with a high number of sexual offenses, including 168 rape cases and 113 involving sexual intercourse with persons under 16. DPP Thompson adds that in several of these matters, children are among the victims. Additionally, for this term, there are 13 matters set for sentencing. The DPP also disclosed that more than 1,000 summonses have been issued to jurors to support the trial process. She indicated that while her office faced uncertainty during the last term over its physical location, staff has since returned to their offices as of the first week of February, though renovation work is still ongoing. She emphasized that the office remains committed to fairness and efficiency, noting that cases without sufficient evidence will be discontinued. DPP Thompson also highlighted the importance of plea agreements, urging defense attorneys to engage more actively in negotiations as a means of improving the system's effectiveness. Meanwhile, attorney Tamika Harris, representing the Jamaican Bar Association and the Advocates Association of Jamaica, acknowledged the heavy caseload and said it is unlikely that all matters will be tried within the new term. She warned that delays negatively affect victims, the accused, and public confidence in the justice system. Harris says the defense is prepared to work collaboratively and will pursue plea negotiations where appropriate. But she's calling on prosecutors to give serious consideration to offers made by the defense and to agree, where possible, on statements from defense witnesses. Both the prosecution and defense agree that greater collaboration is essential to reducing the backlog and ensuring a more efficient justice system. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, prominent defense attorney King's Counsel Peter Champagny says he will continue his advocacy in the new Easter term for media restrictions in the gun court to be lifted. He was speaking with journalists at the Supreme Court on Monday.
The time has long passed for the legislation, particularly Section 13, I believe, of the Gun Court Act, which prohibits the media or members of the media from observing proceedings to the process. I think that should be lifted, and that is something that I would strongly advocate for in the new term. I think what is important is for us to recognize that we are working and operating a different space now. Social media has laid fertile ground for a lot of misinformation, a lot of gesturing, a lot of information that is plainly incorrect and inaccurate, and I think we need to balance that equation by allowing the media to have a front seat in cases that are of public national interest so that persons can be well informed with proper and accurate information.
KC Champagny also commended the media for accurate reporting on court matters.
Mind you, we'll always have one or two instances where it is off base, off key, if you will, but by and large, been very accurate, and it really serves as the only means by which proper and accurate information can be channeled to the public. Outside of that, what you have are the bloggers, you have the persons who have their own agenda, their own position, and influenced either by politics or otherwise, and give the misinformation. So we really need to combat that in a real way for persons to have faith and continue to have greater faith in the justice system, and to recognize that a lot is being done in the justice system. A lot can be done, a lot more can be done, but we need to highlight the positives.
King's Counsel Peter Champagny.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
You're listening to Nationwide 90 FM. The time is
5:14. Continuing the news, administrative and technical staff at the University of West Indies, Mona, staged a protest on Monday over delayed salary increases. It's understood the protest began sometime after midday. Khaleesi Wright reports.
Scores of workers gathered at the entrance of the university campus on Monday. They took their lunch hour to protest over what they say is a long overdue pay increase. Mainly dressed in dark-colored clothing, they chanted, "We want money and we want justice." Members from the Jamaica Constabulary Force were present at the location. An employee of 25 years claimed the management of the university and the unions have been dodging the staff.
I've been working for over 25 years. The issue that we're having now, the university won't try to assure us when we're going to get money with them owe us from over how many years now. Compensation review. I know I cannot hear anything constructive what is going on. Our union, we don't know what is going on because they are just laid back. How long now the UAW union don't keep a meeting with us over here now? And the chief delegate and all of them are just dodging us. We are not hearing anything. So we decided to take it on ourselves to come out so that our voice can be heard. Because remember, things are raised, everything going up. And we're not going to raise up here over 2 years to nearly 3 years now. We can't take it no more.
Another staffer claimed that despite being told that the compensation review process was completed, workers have not received an update.
They told us that the compensation review is done and the document have been sent to the government, and they said they meet with the government already, that is university and the government met and said the 6th of March they met and have discussion and said they would get back to us and write a letter and say they would get back to us, the university worker. And even now, they don't have the audacity to come back and write a letter or say nothing. Our union, nothing either. We hear nothing from the union. And it's over 2 years now, this compensation review have been done and nothing. We're tired now.
And a member of the Department of Microbiology expressed concern about not receiving a definitive timeline.
We're actually out here asking if the government could probably come and see us, talk with us, address the situation, because we need to know exactly what is on the table. We just need some answers as to what is actually happening. Because like I said, the integrity where the union and management is concerned, it's lacking. We get some information out like they're working on it, but there's no timeline, there's no deadline, so we just need a minister. That is what we are really expressing. We need a minister to come and speak with us.
When our news center contacted the university's management, we were told that it was unaware of the issues that led to the protest. We were also told that management had not received a formal notification of a protest. Meanwhile, efforts to contact the university and Allied Workers Union proved futile. Khaleesi Wright for Nationwide News.
The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, is welcoming the government's May 8 timeline for the removal of Hurricane Melissa displaced people from school shelters. The local government ministry announced the timeline last week. According to the ministry, only 8 schools are currently operating as shelters, housing a total of 81 displaced people. In a release on Monday, the JTA says the move reflects the seriousness of concerns raised regarding student safety, child protection, and the disruption to teaching and learning. The association said the proposed timeline appears longer than ideal and argued that the process should be expedited.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Prime Minister Gaston Brown was on Sunday returned unopposed as leader of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, this 3 weeks ahead of the general election set for April 30. Speaking at the party's convention, Brown framed the upcoming polls as a decisive moment for the country's future. He urged voters not to risk putting the governance of the Twin Island nation into incompetent hands, suggesting that a vote for the opposition United Progressive Party would reverse the country's development. Brown outlined his party's vision for Antigua and Barbuda, describing efforts to transform the country into what he described as a lifestyle superpower. He cited tax concessions for homeowners and businesses, investments in education, and expanded tertiary education opportunities among his party's achievements to that end.
U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to strike Iranian warships that come close to the U.S. blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. The blockade of all Iranian ports and coastal areas took effect earlier on Monday, tempering the president's earlier vow to block the strategic waterway entirely. The military currently has 16 warships in the Middle East. The move sets the stage for a showdown as Iran has responded with threats on ports in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It raises questions about what will happen next week, when the 2-week truce expires on April 22.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, JCF signals intention to ban firearms at entertainment venues following shooting at Carnival event on Sunday.
And one of the men injured in the incident takes party promoters to task over failure to provide safety and security.
The police urge citizens to report domestic violence incidents amid uptick in cases.
Murder and sexual offenses dominate the Supreme Court docket for the new Easter term.
I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at revonews.ai and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Jamaica things.
Get ready for an important conversation on the sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll hear from Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, Dr. Susan Suarez-Winter, breaking down Jamaica's sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for our country's future? This conversation is for everyone, the diabetic, hypertensive, and healthy. No angle will be left uncovered. Don't miss the discussion during Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation.
Jamaica.
Get ready for something special. St. Andrew Technical High School, STATS, celebrates their 65th anniversary with a fair and open day under the theme Healthy 65th, Reshaping Our Health Together. Join Cliff Hughes online on Thursday, April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're coming to you live from the campus with energy. Explore student displays from business, science, agriculture, and technical departments, plus clubs like Key Club and 4-H. Enjoy free services services like optical care, cholesterol checks, immunization, HIV testing, and more, with partners like the Ministry of Health and Bellevue Hospital. It's all about community and wellness. We'll have exciting interviews with alumni, students, and leaders, plus highlights of 65 years of excellence. You don't want to miss this major milestone. Catch it live on Cliffviews Online, Thursday, April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's Stats 65th anniversary. Also tune in to this broadcast on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by St. Andrew Technical High School.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Local hero Carlos Brown hit a painstaking 61 as the Jamaica Scorpions continued their steady response to Barbados Prides at a 348 all-out on day number 2 of their regional 4-day cricket championship game over at Shedwin Park in St. Catherine. At sports time, the Scorpions were 275 for 6, still 73 runs behind. Brown, who plays his club cricket at Chedwin Park with St. Catherine CC, compiled his runs from 141 balls and smashed the 7 fours. Captain John Campbell, 34, and Kurt McKenzie, 31, also got good stars. Joe Milwarkan has so far taken 2 for 34. Over at the Coolidge Cricket Ground, the West Indies player Amir Jangu slammed an impressive unbeaten 133, and this, of course, to steer Trinidad and Tobago Red Force to an already imposing 380 for 5 at close. Responding to the Leeward Island Hurricanes' modest first innings total of 138, Jangu put on 109 for the 4th wicket with captain Joshua Da Silva, who made 62, while Terence Hines is not out 55 in his unbroken 5th wicket stand of 171 with the Django. While over at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, the Guyana Harpy Eagles, they reached 257 for 9 at close in response to the Windward Islands Volcanoes 286 all-out. Kemal Savory, he is top scored so far with 74. Tajin Chandapal, remember him? He made 70. Gilon Tyson has so far taken 3 for 64, and Kenneth Denber 3 for 48. Still with cricket, cricket's world governing body, the ICC, has announced a record prize pot of US $8.76 million for the upcoming Women's T20 World Cup in England starting on June 12. The move represents a 10% increase from $7.95 million for the 2024 edition and stems largely from the expansion from a 10 to 12 team competition and an increase in group stage matches from 20 to 30 games. That's a 50% increase. Now, the winners of the competition will be awarded a prize of $2.34 million. It's the same as the previous winners, the New Zealand, they did in Qatar, while the runners-up will again receive $1.17 million. The losing semifinalists will be walking away with $675,000, while each win in the group stage is worth $31,000, the same as from 2024. The minimum price for participation that each country is guaranteed $112,500 to $247,500. That's the increase. And the lowest finishing teams at this edition will effectively receive the same prize money as in 2024. Former champions Montego Bay United, they are the first team to punch their ticket to the playoffs in the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League football season. The Xavier Gilbert conditioned team, they punched their ticket to the playoffs following their clinical 6-0 win over relegation-bound Spanish Town Police, and that came yesterday to put them on 65 points. Now they are 5 points clear of Mount Pleasant Academy at the top, and they cannot be surpassed by more than 5 teams, even with 6 rounds of matches to go in the regular season. Coach Xavier Gilbert told Nationwide Sports on Monday that the first of 3 objectives have been achieved.
It's important, and credit must be given to the work that the club has been doing so far this season. And the players really work hard, and it's a combination of leadership from the chairman, president, and the entire technical staff and the players, you know.
And Gilbert says the plan now is to push on to objective number 2 before they get carried away with what they've achieved so far.
Our objective from the get-go was to finish in the top 2, and we want to play in the CONCACAF Club Championship next year. That's our objective. And there are different steps to get there, and as I said, this is our first hurdle, and we continue to work. We want to finish in the top 2, where we go straight into the semi-finals, and then hopefully we can be in the finals, and then that would secure our berth for CONCACAF Club football.
Yeah, that's coach of Montego Bay United, Xavier Gilbert. Montego Bay United will next be in action on Wednesday. They travel into capital city Kingston for a 7 o'clock assignment against, guess who? Arnett Gardens down at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. Leeds United, they moved 6 points clear of the relegation zone in the English Premier League on Monday. They beat Manchester United by 2-1 at Old Trafford. The Swiss international Noah Okafor, he bagged the first half brace, and even though the Brazilian captain Casemiro threw United a lifeline on the hour mark, the damage was already done.
Bogle's ball in, Calvert-Lewin's up there again, and that is into the back of the net from Noah Okafor, and Leeds United in front inside of 5 minutes at Old Trafford, and Okafor's hit is in! Noah Okafor at the double, and Leeds United are 2 up inside of half an hour at Manchester United. Well, that's a good one, Casemiro! Manchester United back in the game!
And it was the first victory for Leeds at Old Trafford in the Premier League since 1981. They are now up to 15th in the standings. They've got 36 points. United remain third on 55 points. Former world record holder Donovan Bailey says he's excited about the early season form of Jamaica's world and the Olympic 100-meter silver medalist Kishane Thompson. Bailey says he's amazed by the things Thompson is doing at this stage of the season, given his size.
Kishane's a big dude, when I competed, my competition weight was 209 pounds, and he's a bigger guy than I. And I think that it's incredible that he can muster such incredible strength. But these guys are still in base. They're still in base. You're not going to see guys taper until later on this summer. I think Kishane is ready. I think that he's doing some speed endurance running or training. For him to relax, for him to when he gets to that 75, 80 meter mark, for him to relax and let the race come to him.
And Bailey says if Thompson makes a few technical adjustments, he could become untouchable this season.
His drive phase out of the blocks is, his first 30, 40 meters. Although you'll have someone like Christian Coleman or some of the other shorter athletes that could probably match him over the first 30 meters, when he gets up, adjust, and kind of let go of the race and allow everything to come to him, and his breathing, his diaphragm is taut. He's the best guy, top speed-wise. So it's incredible, man. He's going to be good this summer. He's going to be, it just looks good,
That's Don Bailey, the former world record holder and the former Olympic champion. And that will do it for sports at this time. The major sportscast is on its way. It will be here at 6:05. Alric Swebe will be your presenter.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:31.
Upgrade your drive with Hyundai and Scotiabank. 4.99% interest, 0 fees, and 1-year insurance free. Choose from the Hyundai Venue, Palisade, Tucson, or Creta. Visit Kingston or Montego Bay showrooms. The temperature by Hyundai is
31 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 28 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Jamaica things.
Get ready for an important conversation on the sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll hear from Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, Dr. Susan Suarez-Winter, breaking down Jamaica's sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for a country's future? This conversation is for everyone, the diabetic, hypertensive, and healthy. No angle will be left uncovered. Don't miss the discussion during Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-link?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us or joining us right here inside Nationwide at 5. It's Must Listen Radio. You're live inside the Cover Story. I'm Tyrone Reed. Now, today inside the Cover Story, we want to turn our attention to domestic violence incidents. As you would have heard in Nationwide at 5 at the top of the hour, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says several cases of domestic violence go unreported until it's too late and those cases result in murder. Head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, that's Deputy Superintendent of Police Jacqueline Dillon, raised the concern today.
For domestic violence itself, we did see for the first quarter of 2026 a reduction in the number of reported incidents to the police. This time, 2025, we had 2,256 reported incidents. Today, January to March of 2026, we have 2020. What we are mostly concerned about is the number of murders out of these domestic violence reported incidents. Many of them go unreported and we only know of them after something happens.
The latest domestic violence incident occurred in Manchester just 2 weeks ago on April 3. A woman was stabbed multiple times to death by her partner, a soldier. DSP Dillon says Manchester is one of several divisions reporting an uptick in the incidents.
There are some divisions that were never on our radar, and what we have found in recent times is that there are a number of incidents that are coming from those areas. So like areas like Manchester, it's seen an uptick in domestic violence related incidents. St. Catherine North normally has a high reported number of cases, and that has not changed. We have seen places like Hanover and St. James now showing increases in the number of reported incidents compared to what they reported before. And St. Mary to a lesser extent.
The voice there of DSP Jacqueline Dillon, head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit. She was a guest on the Jamaicans for Justice show. Let's Talk Justice, aired on Nationwide 90 FM each Monday. Incidents of domestic abuse may be reported through the Domestic Violence Centers at 876-224-4274 to 5. That's 876-224-4274 to 5. You may also contact the police at 119 or visit the nearest police station. Join us to discuss this very important matter further. We're being joined by one of the founding members of WMW Jamaica, Gender and Development Specialist Judith Wedderburn, and psychiatrist at the Bellevue Hospital, Dr. Brian Kazara, as well as the Principal Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Sharon Robinson. Top of the afternoon to all of you. Welcome to Nationwide at 5.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, good afternoon. Happy to be here.
Indeed. Let's begin with you, Judith Wedderburn. You've heard from the officer in charge of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit. That's DSP Jacqueline Dillon. She's concerned about not necessarily an uptick in the numbers, because as you heard there from her, there's been a reduction in the incidents. But she says a number of these cases that go unreported are resulting in murders, and that's what's concerning her. Your reaction to that?
Thank you so much for inviting me to the program and afternoon. And yes, I would also be concerned because when the cases of domestic violence go unreported and they don't, to the public's eye, they do not result in death, it means that a woman are being abused, physically abused, and are not in a position to report it. So we need to ask the question, why? Is she unable to report it out of fear? Is she allowed freedom of movement by whoever it is causing the violence on her? Because we know that 1 or 2 incidents of violence against the woman is usually a sign that something is wrong, and it may end up in the woman dying if the person being abused does not receive help. So the question is, how do we support women who are being abused, and before it gets to the stage where they become a murder case? Why would they not be able to go unreported? Like I said, it's fear. There's also the culture that we know still obtains, that unfortunately we hear stories of women being told, and I'm not me, does the man say? And the woman eventually becomes traumatized to the point where she cannot report it. So my recommendation to colleagues who are concerned about it is to stay close to somebody you believe is being abused and look for the signs. And if there are male friends that you have that the perpetrator has, you might say to them, take hold of your brethren and get him to understand. We could end up in a
your line, Judith Weatherburn, isn't coming through so clearly. Let's see if we can sort that out for you. But in the meantime, let's bring Sharon Robinson into the conversation, the Principal Director at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. You just heard your colleague there, Judith Weatherburn, touching on something quite significant about those who might be around if it is that the victims aren't in a position to report it. A lot of times the posture taken towards these incidents is that people say they don't want to get involved in people's intimate relationships. That is not a good way to respond to domestic violence if you're an outsider, is it?
No, it's not. And as a matter of fact, we promote a culture of sisterhood and promote the idea of reporting. We do have a national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence, and this is what we use as our oversight to do a number of things. There are 5 strategic priority areas, and they look at a holistic approach to dealing with the whole vexed issue of gender-based violence. We have a prevention component that looks at how do we make sure that public education is provided and persons know about gender-based violence, the definition, what is in place, what forms of redress are available, and who to speak to. And we send the numbers out as often for them to know that there's a helpline you can call and get the information. There's a protection space. Under that protection space, we have 2 regional shelters which are operational, and during the time we have started operating those 2 safe spaces, we've been able to support 171 clients, and that is women and their children. Because in some cases, they have to flee with the small children. We've been able also to offer persons support if they cannot go to the shelter, because the shelter is a no-movement space. They can't commute. And so for those who can't go to the shelter, we have offered alternative accommodation. We have supported 165 survivors under that program. And those persons have been able to get information while they're in the space, and they are supported to go into the space that is safe, not back into where they're coming from that is unsafe, but in a safe space. We also have had international clients who have been deported, or they have come to Jamaica because of a love interest, and it went sour. It might have involved violence, and so we have 6 international clients who we have successfully assisted with consular repatriation.
We are hearing there from Sharon Robinson giving us some statistics, and we are yet to hear from Dr. Brian Kazara. We're up on our first break right here inside the cover story. We have to take the break, but when we come back, I want to hear from Dr. Brian Kazara about what causes people not to be able to report these incidents if they're victims of domestic violence. Soon come.
Every time, everywhere I go, multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere, spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my multi-link?
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
For domestic violence itself, we did see for the first quarter of 2026 a reduction in the number of reported incidents to the police. This time, 2025, we had 2,256 reported incidents. To date, January to March of 2026, we have 2020. What we are mostly concerned about is the number of murders out of these domestic violence reported incidents. Many of them go unreported, and we only know of them after something happens.
The voice there of Deputy Superintendent of Police Jacqueline Dillon. She is the head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit. Now, I want to bring you into the conversation, Dr. Brian Kazara. Dr. Brian Kazara is a psychiatrist at the Bellevue Hospital. And this is perhaps a question you fielded so very often, Dr. Kazara. There are people who don't understand why victims are unable to report it. Could you break that down for us?
Thank you for having me again. There are a number of different reasons why someone may not feel comfortable reporting it. And one of, we may not be able to go through all of them, but some of them include a fear of being judged or criticized, a fear of retribution, actually, from the partner that they may report on, a fear that when they report it, they may not be taken seriously, or they may be ostracized. And it can be a very difficult emotional space to exist in because oftentimes they still have strong attachments and feelings of love and endearment towards the persons who are abusing them. So they also may feel like it might be a betrayal of a loved one. So those are some. There are other reasons, but those are some of the reasons why someone may not feel comfortable reporting. But one thing I want to add to the discussion, though, as a mental health professional and someone in the healthcare system, is that oftentimes when people come for mental health care, they feel a little bit more liberated to be honest and open with a mental health professional. So I have found many times persons have admitted for the first time that they might be the victim of domestic abuse when they speak to their doctor, when they speak to their psychologist, when they speak to their therapist. And what I want to emphasize is what helps in the clinical setting is a feeling that they won't be judged and a feeling that they're going to get an empathetic response from their healthcare provider. That's one of the expectations that persons have when they visit their doctor or psychologist. And I think that speaks to what we as a society need to do. And, looking out for our neighbors, try our best to be non-judgmental and create a safe environment where people can feel more comfortable being able to open up. I think that could also make a big difference in terms of helping persons to feel like they can report the abuse they're experiencing.
Thank you for that, Dr. Kazar. Now, let's bring Judith Weatherburn back in of WMW Jamaica. Of course, she's a gender development specialist. You still with us, Judith? It seems as if we've lost Judith. Principal Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Sharon Robinson. Are you still with us?
I am still with you, Gabriel.
All right. So tell me, you were explaining that there is a no movement zone for certain of the shelters. Can you explain that for me? I'm not certain if that's a term you use, but that's what I picked up from what you said.
Okay. So it means that the persons who are admitted to the shelter will not be able to move around as freely as they used to move before, because of the safety concerns that we have. And it's safety concerns for their movement, for them to not be tracked and traced to where the safe space is. It's also...
So they can't leave?
They can leave. They can leave. We have voluntary discharge. They can leave whenever they
want.
No,
if they want to remain there, they can't leave and come back, is what you're saying?
They can't commute in the safe space. We're having a transition space that is coming up, that's going to be ready soon. That one will allow as a transition home.
I hear the nice term that you're just using, but I'm trying to understand it so that my listeners can also understand. When you say they can't commute in a safe space, if they're admitted and let me get a question out. So if they are the victims of domestic abuse, they come to the shelters, they're admitted. They can't commute from the shelter to work. They can't leave, is what you're saying?
No, the ones we have operational now do not allow them to be able to move, because in most cases, those that are admitted to the shelter are in need of a safe space. They need to have anonymity, and they can't be moving because they are being tracked by the perpetrator.
So what if they want to go to work?
If they want to go to work, that is their decision, but it would be at their peril, because we wouldn't be able to protect them outside of the police. I must explain here that DSP Delon is one of the groups that we work with under the Continuum of Care for Survivors of Gender-Based Violence. So it's not an isolated case where we are working in a silo. We are a part of a larger group of network that allows persons who need help to get the space, to get the help in the space. So, for example, the JCF assists us with the transportation. They also assist us with safety. They are bearers of arms. We're not. So they would be providing that safe space. But in terms of if the person is unsafe, we have a shelter strategy that requires the, should I say, not non-movement necessarily, because they move. If it is, for example, they're going to a health center, they have an appointment, they want to take out a protection order, or it was breached and they wish to have it renewed. One of the counselors can take them, or the shelter manager can take them, but somebody goes with them with protection. Of course, that has to be with.
But if they are gainfully employed and they want to remain in the shelter, they will have to give up their jobs, based on what I'm hearing from you.
No, not necessarily, because in most cases, if the employer is aware that this person has been violated and has to leave their space, then there's consideration given for a period where the person can't. Remember, the shelter is not a final space. They're not coming there to stay forever. It's a space that allows them to transition from a space that is unsafe and where there's harm and violation to another space. So it is a transition space, actually.
On average, how long do those who seek shelter stay? On average, how long do they stay?
So it depends. We do it on a case-by-case basis.
Right. So I'm asking you to give me an average. So it wouldn't. What would it average out to be?
Spend 6 months. Some persons spend 6 months, because it depends on how quickly they are rehabilitated.
So on average, it would be a 6-month stay.
It's not that when they come, we tell them you can only spend 6 months.
Well,
but if you're talking about the frequency of persons who leave, how often, we would say perhaps 6 months.
All right.
A year.
And let me ask you this: do we model, or what have we based our model on? How we've operated our shelters? Is it how other shelters operate internationally? That's the model that we've adopted, or is this specific to Jamaica in terms of them not being able to, if they want to go to work, for example, consistently? So
at the outset I mentioned, Tyrone, the plan, the overarching plan that speaks to how we do this. Now, the plan is predicated on the due diligence framework, which speaks to 5 strategic priority areas. So the section that speaks to strategic priority area 2, that speaks to protection, would be guided by the protocols that are used at the regional and international level. So there are other shelters that are operational in other Caribbean islands through gender machineries, and they have the same kind of operation.
Meaning the ladies, the victims aren't allowed to, it's a no movement, there's a no movement policy, basically, unless it is a supervised movement where you get some kind of support for them to leave. Right. In my mind, let me bring Dr. The goodly doctor back in the conversation here, Dr. Kazar. Now I'm listening to that Dr. Kazar from Sharon Robinson, and I'm thinking that the victims are basically being told that they don't have the freedom of movement psychologically. Is that a good thing?
I think that's a difficult question to answer, because I would like to imagine that there are very context-specific circumstances surrounding their time in that space, and I would imagine provisions made to ensure that their mental health needs are also being addressed. But what I would certainly say is that it's clear to me that they're trying to prioritize their physical safety, and I think that that's something that we can't underestimate in situations like this. And I also want to say that their mental health, I'm going to advocate for that, of course, also needs to be a huge priority, because once we've taken them out of a situation where they were in constant threat, there still is a huge mental toll that remains. Many persons who are the victims of domestic abuse are more prone to experience things like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and substance abuse, amongst other things. So,
isn't there a need to return to some kind of normality as quickly as possible for victims, or in domestic violence cases, that's a little different?
No, man. So generally, you would want to allow them to rehabilitate as quickly and as effectively as possible. Absolutely. And that rehabilitation, I'm sure, takes many forms.
And it's like going to work, being allowed to get back into your routine like going to work. Wouldn't that be a part of the normal routine that would help them?
Yeah, man. Eventually, that would definitely be one of the things that we would that they would want to do. Absolutely.
Let me bring Judith Wedderburn back in because we're almost out of time. The call dropped. She's back with us. Judith Wedderburn, you heard it there from Sharon Robinson. You also heard Dr. Kazara on it. Your take on it that when the victims go to these shelters, they're not necessarily able to, move about freely, to go and to come as they please, like to go to work and come back on a regular basis. What's your thinking on that from the WMW Jamaica standpoint?
I think it is a difficult choice.
Say that again?
Going to work, her life is at risk because she cannot have police protection 24/7 to and from work. So it is a difficult choice. But I also like to make the point and to remind us that many times the mental situation, mental abuse that takes place means the women sometimes feel that it's their fault. They lose confidence in themselves. They think that something is wrong with them. And part of the treatment I think the doctor spoke about would be an attempt to assure the woman that it is not her fault, it's not her reason why she is being abused. But I agree it is a difficult choice to make. She has to stay in the shelter if her life is at risk and she chooses to go to work.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for the time and the thoughts. We are out of time, but thanks to Sharon Robinson. She's the Principal Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Dr. Brian Kazara, he's a psychiatrist at the Bellevue Hospital, as well as Judith Wedderburn. She is one of the founding members of WMW Jamaica. She's also a gender development specialist as well. Thanks to all of you for the time and the thoughts. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That has been the cover story. The headlines are next.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is 6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Nuts. Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Norige Banton. The St. Andrew Central The Jamaica Constabulary Force says a restriction on firearms at entertainment venues is soon to be implemented as part of efforts to enhance public safety. The move follows a shooting incident at the Big Wall Revolution Soca Party held at Ranny Williams Entertainment Center in St. Andrew on Sunday. 3 people, including a vlogger, Jay Frey, were injured in Sunday's shooting. In a statement Monday afternoon, the JCF confirmed some details already in the public domain. According to the police, a physical altercation developed between patrons at the event around 9:30 p.m. They report that the fracas escalated and gunshots were traded between 2 of the patrons. When the shooting subsided, 2 of the people involved in the dispute were found to be suffering from gunshot wounds. Another man was also injured. The JCF says it's organizing a series of meetings with party and event promoters to reinforce security and safety requirements as part of the party permit process. Meanwhile, one of the men injured in Sunday night's incident, Jeremy Watson, is lambasting the event promoters for what he says was a failure to provide reasonable safety and security for patrons. He's also taking them to task over what he says was inadequately equipped medical services at the venue. In a statement to the media on Monday, Watson, who was visiting from the United States, says he was struck by a stray bullet from the altercation. He says the extent of his injuries are such that he is required to be transported home to undergo urgent surgical treatment. Watson did not say where he was hit, but he says there is potential for long-term disability due to nerve damage. He says what should have been a celebratory evening has instead been the cause of significant physical, emotional, and financial distress. He wants event organizers to be held accountable for implementing and enforcing stricter safety measures. The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF says several cases of domestic violence go unreported until they result in murder. Head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, Deputy Superintendent Jacqueline Dillon, raised the concern on Monday.
For domestic violence itself, we did see for the first quarter of 2026 a reduction in the number of reported incidents to the police. This time, 2025, we had 2,256 reported incidents. To date, January to March of 2026, we have 2020. What we are mostly concerned about is the number of murders out of these domestic violence reported incidents. Many of them go unreported, and we only know of them after something happens.
The latest domestic violence incident occurred in Manchester just 2 weeks ago on April 3. A woman was stabbed multiple times to death by her partner, a soldier. DSP Dillon says Manchester is one of several divisions reporting an uptick in the incidents.
There are some divisions that were never on our radar, and what we have found in recent times is that there are a number of incidents that are coming from those areas. So like areas like Manchester, it's seen an uptick in domestic violence-related incidents. St. Catherine North normally has a high reported number of cases, and that has not changed. We have seen places like Hanover and St. James now showing increases in the number of reported incidents compared to what they reported before. And St. Mary, to a lesser extent.
DSP Jacqueline Dillon, head of the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit. Murder and sexual offenses continue to dominate the criminal justice system as the new Easter term of the Supreme Court gets underway, with hundreds of serious matters on the docket. The term runs from April 13 to the end of July. Director of Public Prosecutions Claudette Thompson says there are 918 matters before the Supreme Court for the Easter term. Of that number, 189 are set for trial, while 671 are set at other stages of the process. She notes that among the cases, murder accounts for the largest share, with 366 counts. There are also more than 50 firearm-related offenses, along with a high number of sexual offenses, including 168 rape cases and 113 involving sexual intercourse with persons under 16. DPP Thompson adds that in several of these matters, children are among the victims. Additionally, for this term, there are 13 matters set for sentencing. The DPP also disclosed that more than 1,000 summonses have been issued to jurors to support the trial process. And finally, in the headlines at 5, the St. Andrews Central Police are still searching for a man caught on camera breaking into the car of Carnival on Carnival Sunday. Sources say he has been identified as Jason Benjamin. The car was parked on Arden Road in St. Andrew at the time of the incident. In a video circulating on social media, Benjamin, dressed in a black t-shirt and carrying a screwdriver, is seen entering a car. His action triggered the vehicle's alarm. He's then captured taking up a pair of car keys and attempts to disable the alarm, but that was unsuccessful. Information from the St. Andrews Central Police is that based on information gathered so far, Benjamin may have carried out similar acts in the past. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
Don't wait for the symptoms start show. HIV test free. Make sure you know. Me take me test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. We can't lose. Family there, support there too. We strong, we bold life, I live right through. Live bold, test early. Test for HIV. Know your status smooth surely. Me take me test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. We can't lose. Free testing is available at health centers island.
A message by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Enough power tool, big to small. Chaka my figure dig the wall.
Our total tools.
Weed waka figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Jamaica things.
Get ready for an important conversation on the sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll hear from Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, Dr. Susan Suarez-Winter, breaking down Jamaica's sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for a country's future? This conversation is for everyone, the diabetic, hypertensive, and healthy. No angle will be left uncovered. Don't miss the discussion during Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation.
Jamaica, Jamaica.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alric Swaby. We bowl things off with some cricket as local hero Carlos Brown hit a painstaking 6-1 as the Jamaica Scorpions continue their steady reply to the Barbados Pride's 348 all-out on day 2 of their West Indies Championship encounter at Shedwin Park. At Stumps, Scorpions were 275 for 6, still 73 runs behind. Brown, who plays his club cricket at Shedwin Park with St. Catherine's CC, compiled his runs from 141 balls and smashed 7 fours. Captain John Campbell, 34, and Kurt McKenzie, 31, also get good starts. Jamel Warrican has so far taken 2 for 34. At Cole's Cricket Ground, West Indies player Amir Jangu slammed an impressive unbeaten 133 to steer Trinidad and Tobago Red Force to an already imposing 380 for 5 at close, replying to the Leeward Islands Hurricanes' modest first innings total of 138. Jangu put on 109 for the fourth wicket with captain Joshua De Silva, who made 62, while Terence Hines is not out on 55 in his unbroken fifth wicket stand of 171 with Jangu. While at Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, the Guyana Harper Eagles reached 257 for 9 at close in response to the Windward Islands Volcanoes' 286. Kamal Savoy top scored with 77 and Taj Narayan Sandapal 70. Gillian Tyson has so far taken 4 for 64 and Kenneth Denver 3 for 48. Now, Cricket's world governing body, the ICC, has announced a record prize pot of $8.76 million for the upcoming Women's T20 World Cup in England starting on June 12. The move represents a 10% increase from $7.95 million for the 2024 edition and stems largely from the expansion from 10 to 12 teams competition and an increase in group stage matches from 20 to 30. The winners of the competition will be awarded a prize of $2.34 million, the same as the previous edition, while the runners-up will again receive $1.17 million. The losing semi-finalists will be awarded $675,000, while each win in the group stage is worth $31,000, the same as in 2024. The minimum prize for participation that each team is guaranteed to take home has increased from $112,500 to $247,500, but the lowest finishing teams at this edition will effectively receive the same prize money as in 2024. The increase in prize money came after a 2023 decision by the ICC to award equal prize money for the equivalent men's and women's events. Now, the government of Antigua and Barbuda has given the green light to Cricket West Indies for the construction of the High Performance Centre in Coolidge. The state-of-the-art cricketing centre is expected to cater to teams outside of the West Indies. CEO of Cricket West Indies, Chris Deering, says this will be a game-changer in the region.
So we're going to be building out that high-performance center. It is going to be equipped with the very latest in high technology for cricket training, etc. It's going to be available not just for the West Indies team, obviously, which is our first port of call, but for teams around the world to come here and train and develop. That includes a sports science lab. It includes recovery and relaxation and wellness facilities.
Deering added that the facility will allow players to hone their talent from the grassroots level.
We don't have the production pipeline that can hone this talent from 6 years old all the way through a pipeline of training, of talent, of facilities, of coaches to give us the kind of end product that can be more consistent. So every once in a while, that raw athletic talent that has been honed somewhat as they have grown in the international world of cricket, you see that come to the fore.
Chris Deering. Now to football, as former champions Montego Bay United are now the first team to confirm their place in the playoff of the Rare Never Jamaica Premier League. The ex-Xavier Gilbert condition unit punched their ticket to the playoffs following a clinical 6-0 thrashing of relegation-bound Spanish Town Police on Sunday to move to 65 points. They are 5 points clear of Mount Pleasant Academy at the top and cannot be surpassed by more than 5 teams, even with 6 rounds of games to go in the regular season. Coach Gilbert told Nationwide Sports that the first of 3 objectives this season has been realized.
It's important, and credit must be given to the work that the club has been doing so far this season. And the players really work hard, and it's a combination of leadership from the chairman, president, and the entire technical staff and the players, you know.
Gilbert says the plan is now to push on to objectives number 2 and not get carried away by what they have achieved thus far.
Our objective from the get-go was to finish in the top 2, and we want to play in the CONCACAF Club Championship next year. You know, that's our objective. And there are different steps to get there, and as I said, this is our first hurdle, and we continue to work. We want to finish in the top 2, where we go straight into the semi-finals, and then hopefully we can be in the finals, and then that would secure our berth to CONCACAF Club Football.
Xavier Gilbert, coach of Montego Bay United. Montego Bay will next be in action on Wednesday when they visit Kingston for a showdown with Arnett Gardens at the Tony Spalding Complex at 7 p.m. Now, Arnett Gardens delivered a commanding performance over the weekend, defeating Real Mona 5-2 in an exciting Jamaica Women's Premier League encounter at Alpha Institute. The standout performer was Shakira Douglas, who produced a sensational 4-goal display to lead her team to victory. Head coach Garnet Lawrence was full of praise for his star forward, highlighting Douglas's work rate, composure, and ability to rise to the occasion.
She's a TV girl. But as I say, all of them are special. All of them are playing well. She's coming into herself now. She started a little bit slow. Most of the team started a little bit slow, and we're getting a little bit more gel. We're working a little bit more better in training. So I expect good things from her.
Meanwhile, defending champions Fraser's Whip continued their perfect start to the season, maintaining a 100% record with a narrow 2-1 win over Las Perfectas. In other results, Wi-Fi United edged Proven Girls 1-0, Cavaliers secured a 2-1 victory over UWI Women, and Federal United also got on the score sheet with a solid 3-1 win against Real Mobay. And Leeds United moved 6 points clear of the relegation zone in the English Premier League after beating Manchester United 2-1 at Old Trafford on Monday. Swiss international Noah Okafor bagged a first-half brace to send Leeds on the way, and though Brazil's captain Casemiro threw United a lifeline on the hour mark, the damage was already done.
Bogle's ball in, Calvert-Lewin's up there again, and that is into the back of the net from Noah Okafor, and Leeds United in front inside of 5 minutes at Old Trafford, and Okafor's hit is in! Noah Okafor at the double, and Leeds United are 2 up inside of half an hour at Manchester United. Well, that's a good one, Casemiro! Manchester United back in the game.
It was Leeds' first win in the Premier League at Old Trafford since 1981, and they are now up to 15th on 36 points, while United remain 3rd on 55. I'm Alric Swiby, and that's your sports.
1, 2, 3, boom. Green light.
You mean red light?
Green light. Everything easy and instant when you click the chatbot icon on the CNWJ Credit Union webpage.
So what?
Just become a member of CNWJ Credit Union. You can save, make deposits, and get loans. Speaking of loans, once you become a member, you can instantly apply for a loan right there online and have the cash in your hand within 24 hours.
We are chatbot.
No, chatbot.
Conditions apply. CNWJ Credit Union. Discover the benefits of belonging.
The Leadership Conference of Choice is back. Transform super managers into superior leaders at the Make Your Mark Middle Managers Leadership Conference, Jamaica Pegasus Hotel and online, May 6 to 7. Sponsored by Caledonia Outdoor Advertising, Visual Tech Solutions, Intelligent Multimedia Limited, CIBC Caribbean Bank, and Visual Vibe. Register now for Middle Managers Conference, May 6 to 7 at makeyourmarkgroup.com.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Jamaica things
Get ready for an important conversation on the sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll hear from Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, Dr. Susan Suarez-Winter, breaking down Jamaica's sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for a country's future? This conversation is for everyone, the diabetic, hypertensive, and healthy. No angle will be left uncovered. Don't miss the discussion during Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation.
St. Andrew High School for Girls, it's your time on April 17. The NNN School Tour 2026 is bringing energy, talent, and excitement straight to your school.
So pull up your pants and put it on your waist and...
We're coming to spotlight the creativity and skills of the students, plus play games, win prizes, and enjoy live performances. Don't miss the vibes, the fun, and your chance to shine. The NNN School Tour 2026, St. Andrew High School for Girls, April 17 from 1 to 4 p.m. See you there! This broadcast is brought to you by Police Civilian Oversight Authority, Tip Friendly Society, LMH Publishing, Wisynco Group, Digicel, Nutrition Products Limited, Mystic Mountain Jamaica, and Malta.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Get ready for something special. St. Andrew Technical High School, STATS, celebrates their 65th anniversary with a fair and open day under the theme Healthy 65th, Reshaping Our Health Together. Join Cliffviews Online on Thursday, April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're coming to you live from the campus with energy. Explore student displays from business, science, agriculture, and technical departments, plus clubs like Key Club and 4-H. Enjoy free services like optical care, cholesterol checks, immunization, HIV testing, and more, with partners like the Minister of Health and Bellevue Hospital. It's all about community and wellness. We'll have exciting interviews with alumni, students, and leaders, plus highlights of 65 years of excellence. You don't want to miss this major milestone. Catch it live on Cliffviews Online, Thursday, April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's STAT's 65th anniversary. Also tune into this broadcast on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by St. Andrew Technical High School.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales at nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Jamaica things,
Get ready for an important conversation on the sweetened beverage tax, balancing health, revenue, and impact on Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. You'll hear from Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Carnival Institute for Health Research, Dr. Susan Suarez-Winter, breaking down Jamaica's sweetened beverage tax. What does it mean for your health? What does it mean for your wallet? What does it mean for a country's future? This conversation is for everyone, the diabetic, hypertensive, and healthy. No angle will be left uncovered. Don't miss the discussion during Nationwide at 5 on April 13 from 6:25 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Heart Foundation.
St. Andrew High School for Girls, it's your time on April 17. The NNN School Tour 2026 is bringing energy, talent, and excitement straight to your school.
So pull up your pants and put it on your waist and
we're coming to spotlight the creativity and skills of the students, plus play games, win prizes, and enjoy live performances. Don't miss the vibes, the fun, and your chance to shine. The NNN School Tour 2026, St. Andrew High School for Girls, April 17 from 1 to 4 p.m. See you there! This broadcast is brought to you by Police Civilian Oversight Authority, Tip Friendly Society, LMH Publishing, Wisynco Group, Digicel, Nutrition Products Limited, Mystic Mountain Jamaica, and Malta.
Wake up, Jamaica.
It's another glorious day on Nationwide this morning. From your 6 a.m. alarm to the news at 6. Coming up in the news at 6 to me telling you what's on my mind.
To more news at 7 a.m. Coming up in the news at 7. And then the biggest issues dissected, interrogated, and discussed on the front page. Nationwide this morning fires you up and sets you right for the remainder of the day.
And there's much more until 9 a.m. Want to know which roads to avoid on your morning commute?
Time now for Street Smarts 2 with Little But Clean.
Listen to Street Smart.
Want to hear more about things happening at the community level outside the bustling corporate area? Listen to Across Jamaica.
George, it's someone's birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah, my friend.
And that someone will hear a special greeting every morning via the Birthday Club.
Nationwide this morning on the revolution in media.
It's coffee, tea, and everything else
for those who want an energetic, rip-roaring start to their day.
You're still live inside Nationwide at 5. We're inside the traditionally what is called the nation's business, and it's quite fitting because we are going to be having between now and 7 p.m. the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's panel discussion on the special consumption tax on sugary drinks. In the studio with us to discuss today is the Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton. We also have with us the Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and a clinical nutritionist at the Carnival Institute for Health Research, Cahir, University of the West Indies. That's Dr. Suzanne Suarez-Winter. Now, prior to the opening of the 2026-2027 national budget debate, the government announced that in the upcoming fiscal year, special consumption tax, SCT, would be added to non-alcoholic sweetened beverages. The measure cited by the government as an attempt to encourage healthier lifestyles would have seen these drinks be taxed at 2 cents per milliliter. According to the country's finance minister, Favour Williams, the SCT would have been applied at the point of manufacturing or importation. It was projected to bring in $10 billion in government revenue. But local manufacturers were against the tax. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, the JMEA, Catherine Silvera, labeled it as an unfair burden on local beverage manufacturers. The opposition also rubbished the tax, instead proposing a removal of taxes on water to encourage healthy living. During the closing of the debate, though, the Finance Minister, Favour Williams, announced that following dialogue with stakeholders, the tax will now be applied based on the sugar content and not the volume of the drink. Of course, she also announced a delay in the implementation of the tax. This is to allow all stakeholders to properly prepare for it.
The special consumption tax on non-alcoholic sweetened beverage will therefore be levied at a rate of 22 cents per gram of added sugar rather than on the volume of the beverage. Madam Speaker, this change will require some lead time for manufacturers, importers, and our tax administration to prepare. As a result, the SCT will go into effect on May 1, 2026 instead of April 1 as previously announced.
The voice there of the country's finance minister went on and tried to remind local manufacturers that the goal of the tax is to create healthier products for the public to consume.
We will continue a structured dialogue with both the beverage industry and with health professionals on how this measure can be strengthened and improved over time. To manufacturers and importers, the message is straightforward. Reduce the sugar in your products and the tax burden falls. The government is not seeking to harm a sector that employs thousands of Jamaicans. We're changing the incentive structure, and we believe the industry is fully capable of responding to it.
The voice there of Favour Williams, she's the Minister of Finance. Now, from now up until around 7 p.m., that's the top of the hour, we'll be looking at the sweetened beverage tax, exploring its potential to improve public health, generate government revenue, and its implications for manufacturers, retailers, and consumers. As I said at the top of this segment, we are now being joined by an eminent panel put together by the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. In studio, we have with us the country's health and wellness minister, no stranger to us here at Nationwide at 5, Dr. Christopher Tufton, and the executive director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Deborah Chen, and clinical nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health Research at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Suzanne Suarez-Winter. Welcome to all of you. Top of the afternoon to you. Good evening. Welcome to Nationwide at 5. Well, we've heard from the Minister of Finance. We've heard from the Manufacturing Association. Let's hear from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's representative first, Deborah Chen. What do you make of this SCT on sugary drinks? Is it a good move, do you think?
It's an excellent move. We have been advocating for this for many, many years, in keeping with the WHO recommendation that an increase in a tax on sugary sweetened beverage will decrease consumption, and that will help to create an environment where there will be less non-communicable diseases, which is the cancer, the heart disease, diabetes, and so on. And in Jamaica, the main contributing source of added sugars is sugary sweetened beverages. And this has been proven to have an increased impact on these diseases compared to other sources of food products that one might consider unhealthy. Yes, they may be, but sugary sweetened beverages are the leading contributor to this situation.
And let me bring you in here, Dr. Suzanne Suarez-Winter. As a clinical nutritionist, based on the work that CAHIR does, do these kinds of taxes help where they have been implemented the world over?
Absolutely, they do. So in many of our Latin American, South American countries where they have different taxes, it does help in terms of prohibiting the purchase of these drinks, because we know that added sugar drinks are harmful. There's no benefit to having added sugar in the diet. And so when we have these taxes, just like with alcohol, cigarettes, things that are known to be harmful, then what it does is actually make it prohibitive, because it makes it more expensive to purchase. And so persons are more likely to spend their available income on products that are healthy, like fresh fruits and vegetables.
Dr. Christopherson, one of the in doing some research in preparation for the discussion, one of the points I've noted that some say is a drawback for a tax of this nature is that it's a regressive tax, and by regressive, it is a tax where the less money you earn, the bigger the impact it has on you. There are ways that it says that you can go around that by reinvesting some of that money into benefiting people in the lower socioeconomic brackets. How is the government of Jamaica looking to kind of offset that regressive nature of the tax?
Well, first of all, there are alternatives to sugary drink. So the extent to which you decide not to because cost may be prohibitive, you have options. I mean, the universal drink is water, and it's the best thing for you. And Jamaican water, quite frankly, has a great reputation. The cruise lines...
And there are some cheap ones.
And there are some cheap ones, thank you. And out of the pipe, cruise ships that come here buy water, if nothing else, as an example of our international competitiveness and the cleanliness of our water. Beyond that, though, I think it's important for context that the low socioeconomic groups are also the most burdened by the disease profile. And so if you weigh it from a cost basis, the cost to illness, whether it is productivity, man days lost from work, or it is the cost of medication, or indeed the loss of a life, it is the low socioeconomic group that tend to suffer more based on what we have. And so to discourage consumption, or certainly to encourage reformulation, which is for me a good solution, I think the tax serves its purpose. It's not a standalone. It's not going to be the silver bullet, if you will, in terms of solving all the issues, but it has to go with a menu of other issues, and it does work as outlined earlier by previous presenters.
Deborah Chen, we've heard claims that international bodies do not support these taxes or that they don't work. Can you share what the global evidence actually says, including lessons from countries that have implemented similar measures? I know we've asked a question of Dr. Suzanne Suarez-Winter, a similar question, but we'd love to hear from the Heart Foundation in particular on that point as well.
Yes, certainly it is misleading to say that the World Health Organization, and I think the UN was mentioned as well, of which the WHO is a part, that they don't support it and that they support public education. Of course, they support public education, but they do advocate for a sugary sweetened beverage tax along with public education. And it has been successfully implemented in many countries. I think the UK would be a good one because maybe we can identify with that country. And they have found that when they implemented the tax, what they found was the reformulation, the percentage was very high, and they all came in just under the amount of sugar per 100 mils. So they were really successful in getting reformulation done in the UK. And of course, as Dr. Winter mentioned, there's other examples in our South American region.
Dr. Suzanne, why do these drinks taste so good?
Well, that's
why? I mean, it's so
that's
hard
what
to
sugar
stop
does.
drinking. Yes.
So, unlike things like alcohol and cigarettes that might have more of a negative effect, sugar, they actually show that sugar effects on the brain are nearly like cocaine. They really heighten that pleasure center. And so the more sugar you have, and studies show that even with babies, the minute you start feeding them sugar, they will always want more and more. And so it does cause that driver for a preference for sugar sweetened beverages, which is very important for why we want to not have children get a preference for those things very early on, because the more they get that sugar taste and preference for sweet drinks early on is something that can continue right through into adulthood.
So that's one of the ways to combat it. Do not introduce it early to the children. Don't introduce it
early, because it's also at that time that children are developing taste preferences. So, if they develop that sweetness taste and that preference early on, is something that can continue right through into adulthood. It can lead them to dislike other, maybe not so sweet things like fruits and vegetables, which is what we want to encourage. And so, sugar, yes, it's one of those pleasure things, and it's widely available, widely used. But the reality is having that excess sugar is probably more harmful when you think of the number of people who may be harmed by cigarettes or alcohol. There are more of us who are being affected by a high sugar intake.
What exactly does it do to one's body?
Okay, so just simply once you start having a sugary drink, let me compare it with natural sugars that are intrinsic in like fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables will naturally have fiber, vitamins, minerals, those essential nutrients that we need. Those things slow down digestion and absorption when you have them. In contrast, what sugary drinks do is that most of them won't have those vitamins and minerals or the fiber. So you can have a spike in your blood sugar. This can lead to an excess of fructose, for example, for the liver to handle. It can lead to, in the long term, things like tooth decay, type 2 diabetes. It shows even fatty liver where that sugar can convert to fats. And so just with your liver, it can increase the use or storage of liver in the fat.
And you need your liver to live, as hence the name. So you don't want to do anything to your liver, right? Is the messaging no sugary drinks at all? Is that the messaging that we're can somebody say, can I have one per day? I mean, what's the messaging?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there are very few foods out there that you cannot have, unless of course you have an illness that may limit your ability to do so. So yes, as Dr. Tufton said, water is the best thing, and at Heart Foundation, that's why we promote eating fruit and drinking water. WHO does have limits on the amount of added sugar that you should have per day. So they recommend no more than 10% of your total calories coming from added sugars. Ideally, no more than 5%, and that's around 6 teaspoons. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of the beverages that we have in Jamaica far exceed that per serving. So just drinking one drink can send you over your daily limit.
Just drinking one can actually send you. So the messaging has to be to stay away from these drinks then, all to complete.
Or just limit.
Dr. Tufton, the messaging has to be stay away from them all to complete. Not two is better than too many, nothing like that kind of messaging.
No, that's dangerous at this point. I think the key is reformulation. What we're hoping through policy is to get manufacturers to reformulate, and they can. The short answer to the question you asked previously is that sugar is an addiction. It's addictive.
Yes.
And if you get hooked, you want it, you desire it, and it's empty calories, meaning it does not contribute in any way, shape, or
positive
form
way
to nutrition in your body. So it doesn't help the mind to develop, it doesn't help the body to develop. It really contributes, frankly speaking, to obesity, which is the gateway to things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and I could go on and on, hypertension and so on. So what we have been accustomed in this country to a sweet tooth. And it has its historical perspective. I mean, you go all the way back to the days of slave labor, whether it's salty or it's sweet, it hooks you, it gets a high, you labor on the farm.
Hypertension or diabetes.
And after that, you die with it, exactly, and get in. We have to change behavior. And I believe that the manufacturers, frankly speaking, know that sugar is addictive, which is why they add more sugars to their products. I don't see why they wouldn't know. I mean, they have chemists, they have persons who formulate their product. They know that we have a sweet tooth, and they play on that as part of the addiction. And I'm not talking about Jamaican.
No, just manufacturers in general, across the world, right?
And the studies all support that. And even in terms of the artificial sweeteners, same thing. It's intended to hook you as part of the overall marketing approach. Now, we have to push back from a government perspective. One, because of the greater good of having a healthy population. The cost of healthcare, which is skyrocketing to the point where it becomes almost unsustainable. And indeed, the longevity and quality of life, which as a government, as a people, we expect to promote for community and so on. And I think so advocacy around this, which is why I'm happy to be a guest of the Heart Foundation to discuss this issue because our motives are aligned and it has very good, sincere intentions. We're saying to manufacturers, if you train a mind or a taste bud to accept less sugar, they will demand the product nevertheless. We don't need to create the addiction that the 17 grams of sugar per 100 ml or more, where you rightfully should have 2.5 grams. And so we're shifting behavior. Now it's difficult. It does involve public education, but there are times when it involves policy. And this is what this government is doing. This government is introducing policy to shift behavior. And we are prepared to work with manufacturers. It's not a hostile position. Hopefully it is a position that will encourage them to work with us for the benefit of the very consumers that they crave support from.
I want us to unpack that bit a little more. I think it's a very important point that you raised there, Dr. Tufton, that these sugary drink manufacturers the world over, they know that sugar is addictive. It's perhaps a part of the conversation that we don't have as often as we need to at Deborah Chen. You know that you are selling people these products that they are becoming addicted to that aren't good for them. We should hold that up more and insist on reformulation.
The science is there, and they know they can afford to hire the top food scientists to get their products just how people want to have them. But they have vested interest, and not all, but some, that's their main focus, which is why it's important that government set policies that ensure that the public health interests of the population are looked out for. Because you're always going to get somebody that's their business, okay? And in spite of whatever you say, that's what they're hell-bent on. Not all, but some. When the government sets a policy like this now, like it did with smoke-free environments and the graphic health warnings and cigarette packages, you create an environment that is more healthy, conducive to people.
To healthier choices, yes.
And when we talk about the sugar and the allowance, we must remember that it's 9 teaspoons for women and 6 for men, or the other way around. Remember, that's for the whole day, it's not one drink.
And one drink has more than that. So we need to, right, so let's get the math right so people can understand it. So 9 teaspoons for men
and 6 for women.
And one average soda
and it's about 4 grams of sugar in 1 teaspoon.
All right. One bottle of soda contains how many?
Maybe 12.
So
we have one.
So one basically.
There's one that has 26.
Whoa.
It varies.
One has 26
There's one
grams?
product that has 26 teaspoons of it. Yes.
One product on the market?
Well, one that, there's others, but that's the highest one that we have found. And they're about 9, 10, 12 on average, which most of them on average are higher than your daily allowance. That means to say, if you have that drink, what about the sugar and other things for the day? Remember, bread has in sugar. If you have a tin fruit or tin vegetables, sometimes you buy a cooked food, they put some sugar in the rice and things like that. In other words, it's in total. So in one drink, you are gone over your total, and as Minister said, it is empty calories. You're not benefiting whatsoever from that.
26.
Yes.
Doc, 26 teaspoons of sugar in one bottle of. It's a soda. It's a soda. I realize that we don't want to call it. It's not just a soda.
Not just soda. You have it in flavored waters, flavored milks, what are called juice drinks, which may have very minimal amounts of actual fruit juice, and that's probably the one that we are most challenged with because that's the one that's most prevalent on the market. People see a picture of a fruit on a box or a bottle and think that it does contain actual fruit, but it does contain multiple times your daily limit, and as Mrs. Chen said, that's just beverages. You have to consider sugars that you have in breads, other products.
And carbohydrates break down into sugars as well. So if you have a little rice, eventually that breaks down in.
Correct. I think your producer was signaling to take a time signal.
Look, it's way too riveting. We don't even want to take the break, but we have to take the break here. It's the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's panel discussion on the SCT and sugary drinks. More when we come back.
Ready to upgrade your drive? Hyundai and Scotiabank are making it easier for you. Right now, you can drive away in a brand new Hyundai with an interest rate as low as 4.99%. Low interest rate, zero processing fees, and 1 year free insurance with Scotia Protect. Whether it's the compact Hyundai Venue, the bold Palisade, the stylish Tucson, or the dynamic Creta, Hyundai has the perfect vehicle waiting for you. So visit our showrooms at 7 Oxford Road, Kingston, or Providence Drive, Montego Bay, and get behind the wheel of a brand new Hyundai. Hyundai Jamaica. Because of you, conditions apply.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Welcome back. Thank you so very much for sticking and staying with us right here inside the Nationwide at 5. It's the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's panel discussion on the SCT and sugary drinks. It's a riveting conversation. The conversation continued even during the break. But we were talking about one particular product. We're not naming them because we want to be fair, because we won't be naming all the products and saying what the grams of sugar. Help us to understand the grams of sugar, Doc, versus the teaspoon. How do we break that down?
Okay, so first of all, when you're thinking of beverages, you're looking at what we call sugars. So there are different types of sugars, but 4 grams of sugar. So if you look at a food label, the nutrition facts panel, which is on the back of the panel, you may see it in grams, and so 4 grams of those sugars equate to roughly a teaspoon of regular granulated sugar. So that's, you just do that calculation. And if you look at most food labels, you might see it where it's based on the per volume portion. So you can track based on different beverages.
Some people find all of that confusing though. Isn't there a way we can mandate that you just say exactly how much sugar is in this thing and don't give us all of that fluff?
Front of pack labels. Well, I think this is, so yes, even as a nutritionist, the back of panel, what we call the back of panel with the nutrition facts panel is quite complex to be able to calculate, and nobody has any time to sit down and calculate each of those. So that's actually why we were recommending front of package label.
Right. So Minister, this is perhaps something for you and from a policy perspective. Should we just cut through the fluff?
So sometimes the argument is raised about the right of consumer to choose in a free market. And we obviously are a government that preserves that right, but there's also another part of that, which is the right of consumers to know what's in their food. And we have been advocating, there is a move by groups like the Heart Foundation, supported by us in health, and by my colleagues also around front of package labeling. The issue now is, how do we get to that point in terms of the type of front of package labeling, what that may mean for cost. And myself and Minister Hill are actually going through that now to try and find a solution which will involve some sort of consultation. But the team here is correct that if you ever try to read the label on the typical food packaging, you really,
unless you're a trained
you really need a degree to understand.
Exactly.
And that's why advocacy of this kind is so important, because we have to break down the language, simplify it. And from a government perspective, we have to link the rights with responsibilities. And personal responsibility to this best served when people have information. Otherwise, ignorance becomes the guiding principle. And so we totally believe, I certainly do as health minister, in promulgating understanding, which is why we try to communicate and why we partner with groups like the Heart Foundation.
Given the havoc that non-communicable diseases wreak on the population, Minister, should we just move to What if someone is thinking, why don't we just insist upon manufacturers reformulating right off the bat? Leave the tax in place, but just say, look, you have to reformulate. This is the law.
That could be an approach. It may be seen as a very extreme approach because that may deprive the consuming public of a right to decide if they want to drink a sugary drink or two. But, who knows? There are some jurisdictions that have actually said so and have enforced certain types of restrictions on certain ingredients. We do too, by the way, in terms of what is allowed, not allowed. Artificial flavors that have been banned, for example. The US is now advocating for that in terms of food coloring and so on. And we're going to have to, I believe, speak more to these issues in order to try and ensure that the nutritional component of our diet, of our population, is protected and is based on decisions that support healthier lifestyles. And as you said, the NCDs are a big challenge, so we need to do more of that.
Deborah Chen, would you support that, just moving to a policy where you must reformulate? Because we can't just allow you to...
Yeah, that would be ideal. It may not be so realistic because, you have to go through so many processes and so on. I think what we would advocate for in the more short term is a front of package labels that simply say studies have been done and one has been identified as being successful in our environment. All it says is high in salt, or high in fat, or high in sugar. So when you're pushing a trolley at the supermarket, rushing after work, you can look at a package and it would tell you without having to calculate what's in it. So I think if we did that, and people will reformulate anyway with the tax as well.
Right.
But if the public knew, some people are trying so hard to be healthy, but they're misled by the advertising, which is not always correct.
Right. And I find the teaspoons explanation is way more workable for the ordinary person, somebody who's not trained. So if you tell me this has 10 teaspoons of sugar, I know exactly what I'm putting into my body. That the language has to be worked on as well, though.
Yes, and that's where standards around food labeling come in, where to ensure that even your ingredient listing, having a comprehensive ingredient listing that states, where the sugar, how many sweeteners, what types of sweeteners are in the product. So even if a consumer just looks at a label, they can look at the ingredient listing and know, okay, sugar is the second ingredient or the third ingredient, or there's no sugar in this product. So even simple things like that are beneficial.
There's an ad that I think it's a Heart Foundation ad that speaks about, tells you how many drinks someone consumes per day. And then when you get to the point to say this is 50 teaspoons of sugar, that is when that I sat up in my chair the very first time I heard that ad, and I'm saying that is quite effective. We have to close. We take final remarks from all of you in about 10 seconds. We're heading in the right direction on this, Minister.
Yes, I think this is part of a menu of options that we need to pursue. We are pursuing trans fats, we're nutrition in schools, and several other methods to encourage a healthier population. And I'm looking forward to working with manufacturers on the reformulation.
Deborah Chen?
Yeah, there's no benefit to sugary sweetened beverages whatsoever. It is better you even mix some drink yourself at home, as we used to do many years ago, and maybe put some lime in it. You would not be putting 52 teaspoons of sugar, which is what is in a 2-liter drink.
And final word from you, Dr. Suzanne Suarez.
Yes, so as everyone said, go back to drinking water plus your actual fruits, and yes, we look forward to implementing the tax in however we can, and yes, discouraging the consumption of these sugary drinks.
And the country will reap the benefits. That's all we have time for in this special edition of Nationwide at 5. I want to thank our very special guest, eminent panel, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the Executive Director, Deborah Chen, Clinical Nutritionist at the Caribbean Institute for Health and Research at the UWI. That's Dr. Suzanne Suarez-Winter. Thanks to our producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew Glenn Anderson, all the members of the news and production team. On behalf of all of us, I'm Tyrone Reed saying have a good evening, everyone.